Hello, welcome to the EPG Pathshala program in Linguistics. I am Pramod Pandey at the Center for Linguistics, Jawaharlal Nehru University. We are going to discuss today Module 9 on multiple articulations in this course on Introduction to Phonetics and Phonology. We propose to take a close look at three different types of multiple articulations. We call them secondary articulation, double articulation, and co-articulation. At the end, we are going to discuss a new approach to phonetic analysis known as parametric approach to phonetic analysis. Let us begin. Take a look at the speech organs once again. On figure 9.1, you have the various places of articulations listed on the right, and on the left on this diagram we have the different speech organs being mentioned, specified. So, for example, we have looked at the root, the epiglottis, the different parts of the tongue, back, center, front, the blade, the soft palate, the uvula, the hard palate, the upper lip and the lower lip, etc. Now, the use of these speech organs is for producing all speech sounds. What we have done so far is to look at primary articulations. That means that these speech articulators, one of them active and the other passive, come together to produce a speech sound. The articulation is thus called primary articulation. In addition to primary articulation, we also produce sounds which have a slight modification in the primary articulation. Multiple articulations refers to these modification types in primary articulation, which are three in number as we mentioned. We have secondary articulation, double articulation, and co-articulation as three main types of multiple articulations. Let us start with secondary articulation first. A secondary articulation has a more open construction than primary articulation. There are four main types of secondary articulation that we are going to consider here, namely labialization, velarization, pharyngalization, and palatalization. We'll begin with labialization first. The addition of lip rounding is what labialization is. Labialized segments are symbolized with the diacritic, a superscript W. For example, qu, which is a labialized voiceless velar plosive, and tw, which is a labialized voiceless alveolar plosive. Most languages have secondary articulation as a contextual phenomenon, but some languages can make use of labialization for contrastive sounds. The Tibeto-Burman language Kheza, being spoken in Nagaland, has contrastive labialized consonants. So labialization is both a secondary articulation and can be a co-articulation. It is a secondary articulation when it is used to contrast sounds which are not labialized, and it is considered to be a co-articulation when it emerges on account of contextual assimilation. The second secondary articulation type is palatalization. Palatalization is the additional raising of the front of the tongue that is perceived like the palatal approximant y. It is represented as a superscript y, for example, by, palatalized voice bilabial plosive, and k, palatalized aspirated voiceless velar plosive. Palatalization may be purely co-articulatory for consonants before a front vowel. There are many languages in which consonants are palatalized before the front vowels E and A, or one of them. Kashmiri is a language which is known for strong palatalization. language such as Russian has both contrastive and contextual palatalization. Now to the third type of secondary articulation, namely velarization. Velarization is the simultaneous raising of the back of the tongue when producing a sound with another primary articulation. The diacritic mark for velarization is, as you see on the screen, as a superscript. This is added following the primary articulation, like palatalization and labialization. Thus, the symbol P, which means voiceless, velarized, alveolar, plosive. In most varieties of native English, such as Standard American English or British RP, the alveolar lateral L is pronounced as a velarized O at the end of words or before a consonant, for example, mill or building. Velarization is contrastive in Russian. For example, dal means distance versus dao means gave. Now let us turn to pharyngalization. Pharyngalization takes place when the root of the tongue or the epiglottis is raised to create a narrow aperture with the pharyngeal wall while producing a consonant or a vowel. Pharyngalized sounds are symbolized with the addition of a diacritic superscript of the shape of an inverted question mark. When used as an independent IPA symbol, not as a superscript, but a full symbol, it stands for a voiced pharyngeal consonant. Pharyngalized sounds are common in Arabic. For example, sar versus sar, teen versus teen. You should listen to the pronunciation of pharyngalized sounds in Arabic. One of the best sources of listening to different sounds is also Peter Ladefogger's book, Vowels and Consonants, which comes with the discs for the various speech sounds in world languages. Between them, velarization and pharyngalization are non-contrastive. It's sometimes not easy to tell the difference between the two. In such a situation, when it's not certain whether a sound is pharyngalized or velarized, we use a different diacritic. The tilde as an inscript is used. Thus, we have velarized or pharyngalized the, velarized or pharyngalized the. We now come to discuss double articulation. We now turn to discuss double articulation. Double articulation involves two strictures formed simultaneously in producing the same manner of articulation. And this is important. We have, for example, a labial velar approximant. Labial velar. So there are two articulations. The tongue is raised to produce a velar sound, and there is also the labial sound, and both are approximants. Similarly, we have an alveopalatal fricative. So there is a fricative which is produced by raising the tongue for two different consonant positions, alveolar and palatal. We thus have alveopalatal fricative, which is an instance of double articulation. Unlike in secondary articulation, where a primary articulation is modified with another stricture, in double articulation both the strictures are of equal importance, as we have asserted before. Now there are two types of symbols to represent double articulation. One, single symbols, as we have seen, for example, an inverted W as a superscript, and two symbols connected with a tie bar above them. For example, for double articulation, P or B, voiceless and voiced velar labial plosives. The tie bar diacritic can also be a subscript, like for example, P. Igbo has many sounds with double articulation. Again, listen to the double articulation sounds of Igbo in Peter Ladefogger's book, Vowels and Consonants. The tie bar is also used for affricates. For example, F However, affricates differ from double articulation because they are produced with two manners of articulation, occurring one after another. Thus, f in the production of p is a plosive and f is a fricative. An affricate thus is not double articulation. Now the third type of multiple articulation called co-articulation. It is the variation in the articulation of speech sounds on account of differences in contexts. More precisely, co-articulation is the overlapping of adjacent articulations. One of the best examples of co-articulation are these tongue twisters. Almost every language has tongue twisters in them. You will be familiar with sentences such as the ones shown on the screen. Try and produce them. You will experience that you need to plan your speech pretty much well in advance in order to produce them. That's the first sentence. She sells seashells on the seashore. Doesn't look like a spontaneous sentence. You have to pause and you have to take care to see that the s and the sh sounds do not overlap and are not exchanged in production. Okay, the second sentence. If Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers, where is the peck of pickled peppers Peter Piper picked? Now, coming to a discussion of the importance of co-articulation in phonetics and phonology. Why is it important for us to discuss co-articulation? Co-articulation is important not only because of the significance of the phenomenon from the point of view of articulation, but also the planning and processing of speech. It arises mainly because the different speech production processes and the different articulators involved combine with one another with different timing patterns. For example, vowels become nasalized when followed or preceded by a nasal consonant. Compare English pit and pin. Because of the timing of the lowering of the velum is not perfectly synchronized with the tongue movement for the alveolar consonant. So it has to do with the synchronization of the movement in different times. Watch the following video for the variation in the pronunciation of L in English. Here you will find the different types of L being produced in English, and you will have a good example of the production of velarized L in English, about which we spoke a few moments ago. Watch the video.
Hi, this is Cassie with Complete Speech. As you may already know, connected speech is very different than individual speech sounds, or phonemes, are when they're said in isolation. That's because each sound in a word is affected by the sounds that come before and after. This is called co-articulation. In previous videos, we've looked at how the Smart Palette clearly shows sounds in isolation, but the Smart Palette can also be used to see sounds in syllables, words, and even sentences. Today I'd like to show you how co-articulation looks when using the Smart Palette. Phonemes will look different based on their position in the word, whether they're initial, medial, or final. We tend to undershoot sounds, or not make them completely, during connected speech. The actual position doesn't change, but the closure or tongue-to-palate contact might not be as complete as during isolated production. Let me show you how this looks with my Smart Palette in. We're going to look at the phoneme L in the initial, medial, and final positions. I'll make a recording so we can study the L sound frame by frame. Ladybug, Jello, school. Now we can scroll through the recording and take a look at the initial, medial, and final positions. We'll look at ladybug first, with L in the initial. You can see here my tongue begins to prep for the sound before actually voicing it. I'm touching the alveolar ridge and allowing air through the sides. I do actually have a little bit more tongue-to-palate contact here because I am prepping for the next sound, A, but there's no contact in the back. Now take a look at L in the medial position, in Jello. Here you see there's not quite as much contact, but I still have the correct articulation. In the final position, at the end of the word school, my tongue is also touching the alveolar ridge, but there's not as much contact, and that's okay. The sound still looks essentially the same in all three contexts, making it easy to tell that I was accurately producing the sound, no matter where it was said in the word. The Smart Palette can show phonemes accurately in all contexts. Thanks for watching, and look for more clippets about how to incorporate the Smart Palette into speech therapy.
I hope you have listened to the different pronunciations of L in English. Now, languages and dialects differ in the way co-articulation is effected in them. Nasalization of vowels when occurring adjacent to nasals in different varieties of English is a good example of this. Let us take two varieties of English, one the British English and the other Indian English. We have examples of words in which vowels occur adjacent to nasals. The list shows that while in some of them the nasalization has the same context in both British English and Hindi English, but in some others the two dialects differ. For example, the pronunciation of the words not, on, any shows that there is a common context in the two varieties. The vowel that is nasalized can occur after the nasal in the word not, before the nasal in the word on. The word any shows that at least there is a partial similarity between them. The list in B, however, shows that the two varieties differ. For example, the words no, any, nod, and never have a nasalized pronunciation also in Indian English. No, any, nod, never. Now, depending on the contexts in which nasalization takes place, we have two different types of co-articulation. One called regressive or anticipatory co-articulation. This is found in those cases where a following sound affects the pronunciation of a preceding sound. This is called regressive or anticipatory co-articulation. As opposed to this, you have progressive or perseverative co-articulation. In progressive or perseverative co-articulation, the preceding sound affects the pronunciation of a following sound. We have had examples for both progressive and regressive nasalization in the case of English varieties. In a later module, we will have occasion to look at different types of phonological processes. One of the most important types of phonological processes is assimilation. Assimilation too is somewhat like co-articulation, when a sound assimilates the properties of an adjacent sound. But we ask a question, is assimilation too co-articulation? Now, this is not a question that can be very clearly answered. The answer to this lies in distinguishing between speech that is planned and speech that is unplanned. Co-articulation refers to mostly planned speech, that is, when the speakers produce different types of sounds on the basis of having planned their production. There are various aspects of pronunciation that are not planned, but that happen naturally. Now, we also ask these questions, are secondary articulations too co-articulation? We say yes, they are indeed co-articulation. Are double articulations too co-articulation? Then we say no, they are not co-articulation, because they have to be pretty much well planned. Their occurrence is not dependent on the context, rather they are produced as independent planned segments. The study of the issue of planning in speech may unravel many of the mysteries of speech production. We are still in the process of trying to understand how a speech is planned. That belongs to the area of cognitive phonetics and phonology. Parametric phonetics. In modules 1 to 8, we have tried to look at sounds which are produced by primary articulation. In the present module, we have tried to look at sounds which are produced by multiple articulations. But even in the case of multiple articulations, we are still concerned with single segments. Now, this approach to the study of sounds is called segmental phonetics, which has been studied for such a long time. However, with the rise of instrumental approaches to the study of sounds of the articulatory, acoustic, and auditory aspects of speech, it is now possible to look at these various parameters and bring them into focus in describing speech sounds. Parametric phonetics emphasizes the fact that speech is produced by various speech organs whose movement is well coordinated and continuous in producing a stretch of speech, as can be seen in the following video. Watch this live video of movements in the production of speech. Now, a parametric phonetic description of the articulation of speech shows how the different speech organs in the main, the lungs, the larynx, the jaw, the tongue, the lips, coordinate in articulating speech sounds. That is the end of the present module. Now, in this module, we have tried to look at the types of multiple articulations that add modifications to speech sounds. In the main, these were double articulation, secondary articulation, and multiple articulations. In the end, we pointed out that there is an addition to the approach to the study of phonetics called parametric phonetics, which looks at the coordination of various articulationary, auditory, acoustic phenomena. This parametric approach can be used in the study of each of these aspects of speech, namely articulatory, auditory, and acoustic approaches. It is still in the process of developing. We will confine ourselves to the segmental approach to the study of speech sounds, both in phonetics and in phonology.